Well, hello, we are back. Jeff, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. It's good to be back.
It's fucking outstanding to be back, ain't it?
What's it been? Three weeks?
It's been a couple weeks. It's been a couple weeks. We had a bit of a hiatus there. Our apologies. I was on the road, couldn't get some stuff done I needed to get videos posted, so I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to take these couple of weeks, and I'm actually going to vacate.
That's good. It's good to have a mental and a physical break from the routine at times.
It was wonderful, man. But I'm going to tell you, it was the first vacation I've taken in a few years where I wasn't medicated. Mm-hmm. About 4.5 weeks removed from any medications now, so it's pretty much all gotten out of my system from what I understand, except maybe some of the lithium. Some of the lithium tends to stick around for a bit. But when I tell you that it was one of the best vacations that I've taken in my lifetime, not just in the recent past because of medication or not, but all of the practice, all of the meditation, all of the long walks by myself, all of the exercising, all of the tools paid off.
It's awesome.
I was able to sit there and watch my wife become frantic about something that I would have become frantic about. And instead I was able to help her with it.
Fuel to fuel, basically.
Yeah. Instead of like this weird codependent fueling of the fire, it was more of a, okay, I'm listening, I'm watching. Wow, this is really familiar. Okay, cool. Let's just talk about it. We'll figure this out.
Yeah.
Whereas usually it would be like there would be extended periods of time on a vacation where we're pissed off at each other or this, that, the other. And we had a couple of those where it could have gotten out of hand, but it was nice having a clear head and being in complete control of my own thought pattern. Mm-hmm. I was able to really step back in a lot of situations while we were on the road and go, okay, well, it is what it is, and we fix it, we move on. And we don't think back about it again. We don't argue about it. We don't bitch about it. And I think that I don't know how, if my children ever listen to this or my wife ever listens to this, I don't know. But if they did, maybe they felt that it was different. Maybe that
I'm assuming they've seen the changes in you, as you've weeded off medication, because I can't speak from it, but I've heard people besides you and others who've been on medication for long periods of time. It's coming off, know an individual that one doctor's like, just cut it clean. And just to see the ups and downs with this individual's health and then diving deeper than realizing the medication they were on, literally this could have killed them.
Yeah. Yep.
And most, not to discredit doctors, but you're a doctor and you're specialized in one area. You don't know everything. You don't know about all medications. It's just not possible. You'd have to be a flipping genius. Yeah. And it's just not the way the world works. But to see that ups and downs, I'm sure they've noticed the good, the bad, and like, who is this person type thing?
Yeah, and at times I'm afraid it's sort of like, now I have to fight off expectations for other people because now I go, okay, well, I'm thinking clearly. I feel better than I have in years. And it's a daily thing. It's not like a high, like a peak and a valley or an ebb and a flow. It's just a pretty steady every day, every night is pretty good.
Yeah.
I've had some moments where I've gotten upset about things, but I deal with them and then I get past them. I look through them and I don't go back to them and I'm good. I just deal with the emotion.
Yeah.
Whereas on the medication, I couldn't feel a lot of the emotions except for the extremes. So was I misdiagnosed? Was I mismedicated? I don't know. All I know is that I wanted to fight like hell to get off of the medication. I did it the right way and it's paying off.
That's awesome.
So there's hope.
Yeah.
For anybody that's listening or watching, there is absolute hope when people tell you that once you go on antidepressants, anti-anxieties, antipsychotics, whatever they may be, mood stabilizers, that you're always going to need to be on them.
Yeah.
It's only true if you want it to be true. Mm-hmm. If it's just like anything in life, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right.
Yeah.
So if you think you need the meds, you do. But if you don't, and you really put in the work, and you really don't need them. I mean, I'm speaking from a point to where you may need something. I may need something. In a month from now, we may be back on here and I'm going, man, I had an episode and it scared me, so I got back on something.
Yeah.
But it's going to be by my doing and it's going to be at my pace and I'm going to make sure that it's safe and it's the right thing to do. It's almost like, that magical word boundary. Mm-hmm. Well, I spoke to my mother this morning a little bit on the phone as I do every morning now. And she said, son, I'm so proud of you. You're finding boundaries. And you're not wavering on them. You're saying, okay, this is my line in the sand, and if you cross it, that's on you. I'm not going to be mad, and I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to lose my mind. But now we've got something to deal with. And now you as the other party or the other thought or the other emotion or whatever, done. You're done.
I like how she said that too. That's very interesting. Just like made my mind just shoot off into a million directions.
Totally,
that
dude.
Moment of like, that's a good way of putting it when you encounter things is like, okay, did you cross the line? And as you said, you're kind of letting it be. You're not giving it the motion and the old ways. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we can all take, especially myself. I've had my few episodes in the past couple of weeks of just stress is stress. We all get it, and
totally.
Like you were saying, at times when previous like trips, you and your wife would be fuel going at. And that's like sometimes with my wife and I, like lately, it's just that time of stresses on both, and it just fuels it. And it's just like it starts to die down, then another person throws and then throws and throws, where it's like, okay, who's going to be the water to start extinguishing this? And then when are we both going to be this kind of calm, somewhat, just normal wavy water in the day? But that's good in that aspect of the boundaries of seeing these things happen, and okay, I don't need to give it this comment, I don't need to give it this emotion, just go from there.
Well, it's like if and I just thought of this, so forgive me if it sounds fucking ludicrous, but think if you're walking through the store and you have a bag with you or a tote, right? You have a little tote with you and it's full and you keep adding more shit to it. It's fucking heavy. Well, you could have just gotten a cart and thrown your shit in it.
Yeah.
But you decided that you just wanted to go the easy route, whatever that may be, and it turned into the complex route. So if you go back through the store and you start taking things out that you really don't need, your basket becomes much more clear again, and you don't need this big basket to put all your shit in.
I'm laughing.
Right?
I'll tell you why.
So, and I'm speaking here, I want to be sure that people understand, I'm speaking both physically and metaphorically.
Yeah.
Because as I start to get better, I start to look around myself and I start to see things that I may have purchased or acquired because it made me happy.
It's the purge.
It's the fucking purge.
I've done that big time.
Dude, I look in my closet and I go, why the fuck do I need 40 shirts? Why the fuck do I have a dresser full of t-shirts? If somebody told me tomorrow, fuck Jeremy, get your shit, we got to go.
Yeah.
I would completely fucking panic because I wouldn't know what to do because there's so much shit. So it's the same thing.
I think I'd grab like the first 10 hangers because those are I'm the usual suspects I wear.
Right.
Because some of these shirts I don't wear, no different than you. You might have some old concert t-shirts. I have stuff from when I fought and traveled on the martial arts team that they don't fit. I'm not a 150-pound fighter anymore.
Right.
Like they would look quite snug.
Yeah. But
they have meaning, and maybe one day I'll take them to somebody who can hack them apart, make me a quilt. And
sure.
This is my fight quilt type
dude.
thing.
Yeah, it's about 20 feet by 30 feet.
Yeah, it probably would be. I got a lot of them. But I'm laughing at you when you're talking about the cart, at stores. I guess some stores, you had the carry basket or the tote. A lot of people do. You got the small carts for the quick, and then you got your normal.
Yeah.
I was at the grocery store yesterday. It was supposed to be a quick run in, but I was like, man, we need stuff. I'm just going to book it and grab stuff. And because they were in the car, and wife and daughter and the dog were all in the car. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go just book through and whatever. You say that a lady, I didn't have my big cart was not full, but I was just like, it's just easier to put it all in there. This lady had a small cart. That bottom was full to the top of the next, thing.
Yeah, dude.
And in the top, and she's kind of doing this. And I could see her contemplating as she was in those final aisles, in the freezer section, okay, if I turn this, I'll sit like this. And then you can just see her go, well, I can't get any more in here. I'll just have to come back. You could literally see it in her face.
Yeah.
That crap. I should have got the big cart. And it's if there was another way, I would have let's change carts, because I easily could have.
That would have been awesome.
There would have been no way of doing that. You'd have been how the hell would you have to set all on the ground?
Yeah.
But when you're at the store, you can see those people buy things, and it's this cart's overloaded.
Yeah.
Occasionally you'll have the big one, but you watch those people with the small carts of the basket, it's you only knew you came in for a few things. And then your mind starts to wander. Ooh, I like that. Are you hungry? Which we all know is horrible to go to a grocery store. But is your mind wandering at the grocery store just throwing this random stuff? And, oh, yeah, I need that. I need this. Mm-hmm. And then you look at that little cart, and it's oh, damn, look at all this stuff. Was half that on your list?
It's almost like your brain, like your thoughts, right?
Exactly.
I say your brain, but I mean, wherever your consciousness lies, right?
Yeah.
It until you get it under control, using some of the tools we've talked about or whatever you do, you're always going to be having too much shit in your cart you're always going to be stressing about, how do I fucking turn this to make this fit in?
Yeah.
How do I fucking adjust this part of my cart or my attitude or my day so I can make this person happy, or I can feel that feeling of joy that I'm not getting myself, whatever it might be. Get everything out of your fucking cart. Get everything out, metaphorically, physically, whatever. Get the fuck everything out that does not bring you complete happiness and joy.
Yeah.
Get everything out of your cart that doesn't fulfill you both calorically, nutritionally, mentally. Get the shit out. Fucking start over.
And you can absolutely see all this take place in a grocery store.
Yes.
While we're still on this.
Yes.
You can watch people have the internal argument when they pick up stuff. Whether it's something good, maybe we're reading the label,
Yeah.
looking at the calories, macro breakdown. Maybe we're picking up some. No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't need it. I do need it.
Yeah, like you can watch the internal struggle with people at grocery stores. And this, any store in general, but the grocery store is a perfect example. And I really watched it because there was a line at checkout, so I just sat and I could look down the aisles as I, slowly got towards the checkout, and I could look up and you could watch people pick up. You could watch them put it in their cart, and then they go no, and then they go back and put it back on the shelf, and then move on.
Yeah,
you can watch all this internal, fighting.
It's a human struggle 101.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, because nutrition is a huge struggle for, I would say, majority of the world, especially here in America. But you can watch the mental battle of somebody at a grocery store. Now, if you have that kind of struggle at a grocery store, what does that say when you step outside? And that's not to put you down in a negative manner, but if those internal struggles, you can't say, no, I don't need this, I don't need that. What are you to do in a real life scenario outside when it comes to, like you're saying, we have these boundaries and one's crossed? Are you able to? I'll say lately, I probably will be on the fuel side and only engulf, if we're going to get this fire and rage versus,
feed it some fuel.
Yeah, putting it out. So I think that's a good way of, looking at it that, if you can't have that control in a grocery store, what are you going to do?
So get this, dude. So I'm on this trip. I'm really sort of not anxious, but a little nervous, a little cautiously optimistic about how am I going to handle conflict on this trip?
Yeah.
How am I going to not do the things that I've always done in the past and responded or reacted out of a pain place or a fear place instead of out of a compassion and love, even going, oh, well, I can see why you would be angry at me because you thought that way. But let me tell you how I constructed the thought and maybe how you mistook it or how I misdelivered it, as opposed to just fuck you, and everybody's pissed off. So check this out, man. So the whole like having too much shit in your basket, the whole like being weighed down. My wife and I and the kids were in the car and we're putzing around Austin somewhere in Hill Country, Texas, and my wife, she had mentioned something about going somewhere. We weren't prepared to go do this one thing. It required. Well, I'm a bit of a, if I'm going to go on a hike, I'm not going to do it wearing flip-flops. I'm going to take a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go climb a bunch of, and mind you, I've got back and knee problems, so it's sort of, it would behoove me to do so. So I do that. So anyway, she's talking about doing something, but we're doing all sorts of different shit. So to me, it's just like, oh yeah, that's another thing on our list. We're probably not going to get to it today. Well, she says it like a couple more times, and finally it's like, okay, I guess this is where we're going to go. I put it in the GPS and we go, and having known that the kids have already said, I've already said, we've already all made it sort of clear that, hey, we're not really down with this. It's sort of your thing. We don't want to do this right now. We're not prepared. We didn't think, whatever it may be. And everybody has a right, even your child has a right to be like, you know what? I want to sit this one out. Cool. If I make you do it, you're just going to resent me. So cool. You sit this one out, but you got to come on the next one. Right. Yeah. Whatever. So my wife gets out of the car. We get there, and it's basically climbing up a few hundred stairs or whatever to get to an outlook or an overlook. And I decide I need to support my wife on this. And I need to show my children that even though I'm not really into it, I'm going to go do it to support my wife. So I get out of the car and I chase her down. I say, hey, and without getting into too many details, because it's personal, I say, hey, I just want you to know this is, I see that you're a little upset. I want you to know this is where we were coming from, where I was coming from. I'm going to go up with you, but I just want you to know that it wasn't that, I didn't want to do it with you. It's that I'm whatever, X, Y, and Z, my back, my this, that, the other. I wasn't feeling it, was wearing fucking flip-flops, the whole thing. And so she's just not real happy with me, man. She's really still like in this pain place, like I abandoned her, I deserted her. That's, what I'm realizing. So I tell her, I'm like, well, just go at your pace. I'll go. Well, she fucking flies up the hill.
I would assume.
Right? So she's pissed off, whatever. She flies up the steps. And we get up to, I follow her, but slowly I get up there. She's already out looking around, and all these people are going around this old couple. And I get to them, and I'm, first thought, okay, I'm in a situation right now. My wife's not happy with me. My kids are in the car doing their own thing. She's not going to be happy when she gets back. What can I do right now to change my entire energy state? I see this old couple, and I see this lady struggling, and I approached the gentleman. I said, sir, I don't know if I'm in the right place or not, but can I help you guys out? You want to get up to the top? Is she okay? And she looks at me. She says, son, that'd be so sweet. She said, I've got vertigo and I get a little dizzy. Yeah. So I helped her. It took about 10 minutes, get up to the top. She sits down. She looks around. My wife's still not really, she's out doing her thing, looking around. There's multiple little avenues you go down. And I just tell myself, I'm not going to chase her down. I'm just going to do it. And then, like I see she's wrapping up her thing. So I go over to the older people and I'm like, hey, are you guys going to be okay getting down? And she's good. I say, okay, cool. So head back down and, man, like, I sort of let it go. I'm like, all right, I got this shit out. I feel good. I helped some people. Like, I couldn't help you, but I wanted to help somebody. Well, my wife carries this resentment and this attitude all week. And then it comes out in the car on the way home. And again, for the first time, I can't say that I took part in it. I managed my responses. I made sure that I didn't do the things that I said I wasn't going to do. And I sat there and I watched my wife behave in the same manner. And I only knew it was the same manner that I behaved in just on our last vacation.
And I had the epiphany.
I went, oh my God. So in that moment, I could tell myself with all sincerity, you cannot expect anybody else to be any different until you're different. And then when you're different, you don't change them by saying, hey, I'm different, now you be different. You just say, oh, you're going to read more books? Oh, I see Dad's reading more books. Oh, Dad said he's going to fucking be more patient. He's more patient. You show them through examples, and then eventually maybe one of them goes, oh, I think I could do that, right?
Stick.
Yeah. So that's sort of where we're at with it. And I tell my wife, eventually, like, listen, you got to deal with this. I said, you sat on this issue you had that could have been resolved immediately. And you didn't. Okay, cool. Just like we would have done in the past. So I'm seeing all these cycles and all these repetitions, and I'm just like enamored that there is a way to view it without becoming a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a way to view your thoughts without becoming married to your thoughts. Right.
I think it's not to dwell. Like, not to hang. And I'm guilty of this, as y'all are. Totally. It's like taking what happened with your wife, to sit there, and we all have those, is not to sit and dwell on this,
right,
and then harp on it for days, and then digging it up and bringing it up.
Yes.
If it's not been spoke about, one does not need to then just dive back into it and just start speaking and bringing it up. Well, all you're doing is feeding that fire again in a bad way. And
you know as well as I do that if, let's say, like you and Kelly, right? Yeah. You and your wife, you're sitting there and she brings something up from a week ago.
Yeah.
One, you're not prepared.
Well, yeah.
It's the left field. It just came out of nowhere. And now you're going, well, wait a minute. No wonder you've been so pissy all week. Like, you've been stewing on this. But then there's got to be a part of you as an adult where you tell the other adult, hey, you're sort of like old and you're supposed to be wiser than this. And when you get mad at me, tell me. Yeah. Let's talk about it. But fucking damn sure you're not allowed to say, well, I didn't talk to you about it because I was afraid how you would respond. You can't. You can't.
You got to have the hard conversation that most of us don't want to have as, adults, have the heart-to-heart or the sit-down moment without the kids around type thing. And but it's, again, we're all guilty of these things of, well, it's been stewing, and it's just one little thing that irritates you, and then you go right back to, the previous event, which could be, hours or days or weeks ago. Yeah. And go. And that's one of those things. Then it just comes a one-up match of...
That's all. It's a pissing match.
Yeah. who's going to win this
Yeah.
when it needs just to be, okay, one of us was in the wrong, both of us were in the wrong, whatever it may be. Okay.
Yeah.
Move on from that. Because if you constantly bring it up, you're not moving forward. You're not making progress because there's no progress to be made because the only thing we're doing is circling back.
Yeah, it's chasing your own tail. And when you can step out of that vicious cycle or that circle and you can watch somebody chase their own tail.
Snaking its tail.
And by what I mean by that, and I don't mean this in a derogatory or a demeaning sense, especially about my lovely wife. What I mean is sometimes when you're angry about something that you haven't spoken about, something else triggers that anger.
Yeah.
And then you start trying to argue that. But then you realize somewhere, or maybe you don't realize, you start arguing about something else. And then before you know it, if you're an observer, you're watching this person just add fuel to their own fire and chase their own tail. And you don't have an opportunity, and they don't give themselves an opportunity to step the fuck back and say, wait a minute, what am I really upset about? This is not fixing the situation, what I'm doing right now. So how can I alleviate that and fix the situation?
Well, sometimes it's an individual needs their own swift kick and ass from themselves. It needs that boom, smack upside the head going, oh shit.
Well, when you're fighting if you and I are in a car and we get into a pissing match about something.
You have nowhere to go to retreat.
There's nothing.
You have to wait until somebody, I would put it this way, one of the persons just has to become silent and just let the other ramble.
Yep.
And just not speak back.
That's being an observer.
Yeah, one of you has to become the quote unquote the bigger person for the moment to just shut up, let the other rant no matter what is said, and just okay.
Yeah, I said something to my wife that I shouldn't have in the heat of the conversation, and I said something to the effect of like, I wish you would just shut up so you could actually speak. She's like, well, you shouldn't tell me to shut up, Bob. I'm like, no. You need to stop talking for a minute so you can gather your thoughts, so you can remember what you're talking about. Because when you get angry, present company included, you fucking tend to forget. You just get angry.
You don't think, you just spit.
React.
Yeah.
Not respond.
You're going very...
So
you're running off emotion versus actual thought process.
100% emotion.
It's all fueled by emotion.
It's all emotion, and we need emotion. It's powerful, but emotion without guidance or misguided emotion, well, that's gotten us to where we are now as a people.
It's scary. It can be.
Yeah.
Well, hell, that's of course a history. Look how many things could have maybe been avoided.
Every conflict.
Well, probably true. I would say, yeah.
At its core, every conflict could probably be resolved if one person would just stop.
Would have stopped and said, sadly, that's our human nature. We don't do that.
So somebody's probably listening to us right now, Jeff, or watching, and they're going, wow, you guys have really got it together. You fucking know what you're doing. No, we don't. Not really. No, not by a fucking long stretch of the imagination. We found a few tools, and one of them, on this trip that got me through was this book, and there's a book right here. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote this book. And if you listen to the audiobook, like I do sometimes, I'll read the book and listen to the audiobook. The gentleman that reads it is just fantastic. So it's a really, really good listen and a good read. It's called The Four Agreements. It's a Toltec wisdom book. Toltecs were a group of people. I believe they derived from Mexico or somewhere down south. But
old tribe.
The Toltecs are responsible for multiple ideas, but one that Ruiz writes about in these books is the idea of mitote. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is the condition of the human mind that is constantly moving. You are always looking for things. You're always trying to fix things. You're always trying to ask things. You're always trying to answer things. It's just mitote. It just keeps on going. Within that storm or that mitote, you have to find a way to calm down, make decisions, become rational, lead the pack, lead the family, lead yourself, whatever you're going to do. It can't always be chaos, right? So this 4 agreements, one of the agreements in here, as I approached those steps with my wife, and I could understand that I was not getting through to her what I wanted to, why we were in the position we were in. Mm-hmm. Just do your best. That's one of the agreements.
Yep.
Always do your best. No matter what, always do your best. Okay, I'm going to do my best right now, and I'm just going to shut up.
And that's one of the things, too, within that agreement. You have to be able to call your own bullshit of when you're not. Whether it's...
You've got to be honest, and that's the first one, be impeccable with your word.
Yeah, be like with a workout, relationship, conversation, job, whatever it may be, are you being honest with yourself? Are you like to say, am I really doing my best type thing?
Yes. So I'm approaching the situation. I already know I've got to be impeccable with my word. I've told my kids, hey, this is what's going on. This is what Dad's going to go do. I set out to do it.
It's kind of like the ancient way of, before technology and this, like,
right.
The old handshake meant a bond. And you go back into olden times, like, that handshake that you and I could do, that would span 10, 15, 20, 30 generations into the future with our family legacy that, hey, our great blah, 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 whatever we would be, they made a pact, and our families agreed to uphold that.
Well, don't be lost on this, people, Jeff, or any of us. The shit that our ancestors did 2, 3, 4 generations ago, it still affects us.
It does.
And Jeff and I are trying to put a stop to that. We don't want the unknowns of past sins or past lives to be running amok in our DNA. Mm-hmm. So make sure your word's impeccable. So I did that. Don't take anything personally. That's the next one. All right. She's mad.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I feel like she's really angry with me. I think she's just hurt at the situation. She's hurt because she felt like she didn't have anybody on her team.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 against 1.
Okay. So I can't take that personally. If I do, it'll result in anger, right? Don't make assumptions. Holy shit.
That's the
holy
worst thing
shit,
you
dude.
Can do. And I'm proud to say for you, because in previous times, you always talked about if you guys had like a trip or weekend getaway, you have this full-blown assumption like, man, it's going to go this way.
Right.
That book talks about it. Several other ancient authors, Stoics.
Yeah.
I know Alan Watts and a bunch of those guys talk about you need to have every like preconceived notion, assumption needs to be gone.
Yes.
You just need to let it happen as it is supposed to.
Right. Yeah. You're not the creator of this happening that we're all experiencing. You're just on the ride.
Yeah.
Right. You can't change it.
That we're guilty of all that and many of things. And I think that's one big thing is if you can lose the assumption of how you want something to go, just let it happen as it does. And then as it does, you kind of just, as Alan Watts would say, I think it's Alan, change is inevitable. You need to, no, actually that's, I can't remember who said it, but
it's okay.
But change is inevitable. You got to plunge into it. Like you're going head first. Many people have said this, but without that assumption, you roll with it, see how it happens, and then you just dive and go.
Yeah.
Because this is where we're going. There's nothing I can do to really change this course.
Yeah.
Now, if it's something bad, then yes, but like if you had this assumption and it kind of takes a little veer, okay, let's roll with this. Maybe this will turn out to be good, Getting up to the top, it'll be look at this view kind of thing.
What's great about these agreements and that view from the top is that every one of the agreements helps beget the other one better.
Yes.
So
just a compliments of each other, but if you can really, one.
Yeah.
Okay, I fully am honing in on agreement 1.
Yeah, I own my word.
Yep. To 2.
Yep. And then I'm not going to take anything personally. And if I do, it's probably because I'm making an assumption and I'm definitely not doing my best. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to get caught up in doing all of the right things when you read this book and you go, okay, there's 4 simple things. If I can just remember at every moment of chaos, some point in that fog of war, I go, wait. Fuck, what am I assuming? I'm assuming something, or fuck, I am not having my best day. Maybe I should try this tomorrow. Or, yeah, you know what? I'm taking all this very personally. Mm-hmm. My wife, she's not mad at me, just me. She's mad at the situation. So let me do my best. So let me go ahead. I'm going to walk up these fucking stairs because I said I was going to. She may not want me next to her side, but I'm going to do it. And then, helping the folks out at the top was sort of part of that, like, hey, man, this is your cherry on top. This is your dessert. You walked up here so you could help someone.
Yeah.
You're in pain. You didn't have to walk up here. You could have just let it happen. But because it just really, if you stop and think about it with an open mind, you have to realize that me not getting out of the car immediately, me having a 10-minute long conversation of dialogue that my wife did not want to have, that all played into getting me up on top of that hill to help someone do something that they wanted to do. It up to that point, it had not helped me. Up to that point, I was just confused. God, how can this not be understood? What's going on here? But as soon as I gave some help to someone else, opened up some new compassion, some new energy, and some new light, if you will, some love, everything else was just sort of like, whatever. Whatever. You know, I'm glad I told my wife the words I wanted to say. I showed my kids what I was going to do. Hopefully this is a building block for the future, you know. It was just, it ruminated, not like a ruminating thought as in like mania or something or psychosis, but more of like a pride, good pride, proud.
Yeah.
Being proud of yourself that
you delivered the message and kind of showed where you wanted to go, and hopefully that a small piece of that sticks into each one of them.
Right. My wife didn't understand any of these that I was living by, any of these agreements. She didn't. What are you talking about? I didn't say the agreements. I thought them, but they were a guide. They were just, as most Christians probably feel about the Bible or other books, whatever. Excuse me. It's a guide. It's a practical guide to living. It's a guide to, if you really want your world to be better, 4 agreements are a good place to start.
It's essentially every book is.
It's owning. It's owning yourself. It's not letting things get to you. Again, it's called the 4 agreements, and I didn't realize it. At the top, it says a practical guide to personal freedom, which is pretty funny. I just said something like that. But then I started reading the 5th agreement, a follow-up, and I'm only, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even have a bookmark in it because I think I've been doing most of it audio. I'm probably an eighth or a quarter of the way through, and he still hasn't really hit on like, okay, this is the 5th agreement, like, but he's reshaping and reforming what you've already read in the 4 agreements, and these are only 100-something pages, so they're quick reads. But the 5th agreement so far has gotten me more excited about the work I've done with the 4. So I'm just really looking forward to wrapping this book up, hopefully tonight, and sort of figuring out, okay, what's that next step? Yeah. And he's got multiple other books.
Oh, yeah, he's a phenomenal author. 4 agreements, so, like, I've recommended that to several people. Talking to an individual I used to work with the other day, I was asking for some books, and I told them, I'm like, you know, what are some you recommend? And I gave, I think 4 or 5. I'm like, if you're looking to kind of open up your mindset, maybe a little bit more spiritual,
right?
You know, as we all go through that journey in life, here are some books that I think can really start you down that path. And I said, you know, you need more, but
yeah,
I've read that book a few times. I'm probably going to read it again because I was telling Jeremy here that, the 5th agreement, I have it in my Amazon cart.
Yeah.
So I'll probably reread the 4th probably this week. I'm reading this massive book now, so it's like
need a breather.
Well, it's a good book. It's very good because it tells different stories of history of how one person thought they were doing something in a good manner to another, and then they were locked up, killed. We're getting way back in olden times.
Oh yeah, sure.
So like it's the 48 laws of whatever. I can't remember. And I think Ryan Holiday has seen Sean Whalen and a few other like those, Sean's a writer. Oh, actually, right. He's written one book. But like Ryan Holiday and some of these big authors, but it goes through the course of history of how people's events thinking they're doing good for one backfires because essentially you're trying to show up another. So like how you handle certain situations and how these can be applied to modern times. It's just a different way of like mastering scenarios. Yeah. But I also like it because it's got the history aspect. So you're learning to they talk about people which most will never have a clue. Who are these people?
Yeah.
Sure. But no, it's a good book. It really is. I remember when I finished it, I think the second or I think I've read it, I can't remember 2 or 3 times, but we were driving somewhere. My wife was driving. I was in the passenger seat reading. I remember just finishing that book. I have you've read my copy. I have the back half, how many folded, I think underlined. I think the back half of the book, almost every page I got folded over. Yeah. And something highlighted or underlined in it because I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, it's a good read when you give me a book, I read it, I give it back, and I just go and buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's how many times do you do that? You read a book and you give it back. You're like, thanks, that was great. Yeah. This is one that I would put on the list. If you have a list of 5 books that you want to read this year or this month or whatever you do, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is probably at the top of that list. I would say that
it's a Amazon bestseller.
Yeah.
Go and look at the reviews and just read people's comments. It's insane.
Well, the bookstore that I picked this up at, the young man at the counter was a manager. He said that this is required reading for all of their employees.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that something?
Like,
it was in Austin. It was at a bookstore in Austin.
Okay, so you got
I got another copy. I was there, and I was like, you know what? I really want to read the Four Agreements again when we first got there.
Yeah.
And so I ripped through it in an afternoon out in the backyard. I was just, honestly, I was sitting out back, and I packed a bowl of some cannabis, and I was by myself just chilling. I read the entire book front to back in just a couple hours.
There are some books that really pull you in, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
I've read the Book of Five Rings.
Yeah, I've not read that.
Miyamoto Musashi. There's how many versions? I'll have to give you the one I have. It makes a lot more. This gentleman wrote it. Another martial artist took it.
Right.
But, that's one. I finished that again. And I have a couple different versions by different authors because they're all different. And I think I knocked that out in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's you just get in a groove, and it's like, man, this is so good. I want to put it down. I even do that. The other day I was sitting outside reading, and then the dog was outside. He was just chilling with me, and I'm like, the wife and daughter will be home soon. And I'm like, I got to stop because if I keep getting real deep into it, I won't want to stop, and then they'll be home. Like, what do you do? I'll be in a little bit.
Right.
Can't do that when you got, book that's like a telephone book.
No, that's some serious me time.
Right? And that's in this book I'm reading, it's very small print, and then it'll have sub things written, like quotes of other people that can be tied in with it.
Oh, wow.
So
it takes a while.
It takes, to read 2 pages could essentially take you 10 minutes.
Yeah. I could see that.
It's very small print.
Yeah.
And then you got everything on the side, and it's pretty cool. One, he was doing a quote about the snake.
Yeah.
And then he was talking about, the snake bit me, and then a heron tells him that, well, hey, we'll get the poison out. You need 50 herons to do this, and this. Well, the gentleman then snatches up this heron, goes back to his wife. His wife goes, well, this heron told you that this is how you need to do it. Why are you going to punish the one that is telling you how to save your life? Well, the whole text is written on the side.
Oh, like a snake?
Like a snake. And it starts off from a tail, and then it gets to the end, and it gets thicker. And it's like there's all sorts of little things on the side. So you're reading a book, but you're reading it'd be like you putting your own notes to it.
It's almost like watching or reading a screenplay.
It is, and it's very detailed. It's so that's why I always I'm usually reading multiple books at a time. These I can knock out quick.
Yeah.
But those other ones that are huge, I got a Stoic one too that's got all different ones from Marcus, Epictetus, Zeno, all those guys, different things, and others that aren't as popular.
Yeah.
It's written in their kind of language. You got to be in that mode to be thus eyes, we don't speak that way. So your brain's got to, so it's nice to have books if you can. I can't tell everyone to do this, but it's good to have books that are simple reads. And then there are the good ones to challenge. I got one by Alan Watts too, that is so in depth. When I read it, I had to spend most of the time looking up every other word because he's using stuff combination from Indian words, Chinese, ancient stuff. And he does have it, but I needed to look it up. How's this pronounced? And it was a chore to read. And it's a book like this. It's not very big, but the print's small. But there are those good books that will challenge you to push yourself to, I need to pause.
Yeah.
What is this word? Beautiful Google that'll actually say it for you so you can recite it with you.
Right.
It's good to read all sorts of types if you can get into that you have some books that are just like, man, I can't put this down. Cool, I knocked it out. Then there are some good ones to pick up that will take a month, 3 months, maybe a year because you have to learn along with that book of what's
Would you agree that when you find something like the Four Agreements, that it doesn't have to be a novel? No. You don't have to be shaken to your core by an earthquake. You could have a near rear-end collision that hurts nobody and touches nothing, took no time at all, and it changes your entire outlook on driving.
I would say
or whatever.
Thick Nat Than's book, How to Fight.
How to Fight.
Pocket book that I gave it this.
Bro, I got so good.
That's one of those. It's it's just good to come back to these.
Yeah.
Because the first time it may not hit you. The Alchemist, my buddy gave us when he got married as one of our groomsmen gifts. And I was not a big reader back in my 20s.
Sure.
Read it. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's cool. Cool little story.
Yeah.
To me, it like popped in my head. It reminded me of like of Aladdin. In a sense.
Gotcha.
If
Yeah,
you've-
sure.
If, you know,
Yeah.
if those of you haven't read it, if you have, you'll make like, oh, okay, I can kind of see it. Read it again later in life, and it's just like, whoa, it has a totally different meaning. And that's the nice thing of books or, you know, even a movie, that where you're at in your journey of life, you can read it, watch it, and it'll have a completely different effect on you than it did when you first read it, second, third, you know. And that's why, like, some of these books I've read a few times, and I'm like, man, these are just great reads.
Well, you know, I think that if we're speaking to, we don't know who we're speaking to right now. There's people that may hear this that are homemakers, or people that are construction workers, people that work in finance, people that, what are kids, you know, you got somebody in high school, whatever. If somebody told you, hey, whatever you're doing in your job, I have a tool for you, a few bucks, but you'll use it forever, and it will become one of your most valuable tools. Let's say it's a ratcheting, open and box and wrench, and you're a mechanic, and you've always had to take that ratchet off, spin it, and turn it again. But now you just pull down, up, and down. Now your life is easier. You got another car off the lift faster. You got another one in faster. Books like this, like the 4 Agreements or like How to Fight, are tools. You keep that tool in your head until you need it. And when you need it, you thank God that you've read that tool, or that you've got that tool.
It's kind of like the specialized tools that the mechanic has.
Totally.
I may not bust this
that's
out
exactly
very
it.
often, exactly like you're saying. I don't use this often, but if I need to, I have it, and I know how to use it efficiently.
Yes. And it's no different than being a martial artist, being a skilled, trained martial artist. You don't just go show off what you can do. No, man, you don't get that unless you...
Not part of the training.
No, you don't get that. So just like that, just like a mechanic's tools, just like a painter's tool belt, brush, whatever, just take our word, go read a snippet on Amazon, go listen to a snippet on Audible, go do whatever you got to do.
The Audible's phenomenal, you know.
It's 1 credit, and you get a free credit every month.
I done a good one to read is the Zappos guy and how he got started.
I heard that.
And he reads it himself.
Yeah.
I think his name's Tony, if I'm correct. Can't remember. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
To listen to his overcomings of things in his company and like the decisions he had to make, but he has a lot of good, also life insights too.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I don't want to say it ad nauseum, but you know, getting off the medications, you talk about helping me be able to read and consume and absorb and retain. Like before, I'd be, you know, on page 20 or whatever, and I go, man, did I just read 15 pages? Like, I don't remember. Now it's like I can focus, I can draw my attention in on things, I can zoom in, I can stop for a moment and come back.
Well, you have the clarity of less chemicals in the body, the brain.
Yeah.
And I think, too, you're not alone that when you go to sit to read, you have to be prepared to do so because we're so distracted by everything else in life that it's not very hard to go and sit down and then all of a sudden, oh, did I do that? Oh, I need to do this. Ooh, I need to do this.
Yeah.
I'll do that several times, and I do that more so like I get like the Daily Stoic emails. I get James Clear's emails once a week, 321s.
Yeah.
And I'll read those. And I get more distracted when I'm on a phone because obviously things can pop up, reminders and texts and things. But it's like when I'm reading a book, I'm very less likely to be distracted because I'm holding it. I'm not a digital read person.
Me either.
It's never going to be that way. But you really have to put your mind that I'm going to read. I would say if you're not a good reader, I'm going to, maybe read 5-10 pages.
Sure.
Or wouldn't do time because then you're just going to try and rush and you won't take it in.
But you got to be honest with yourself too. Like there's a way you can be like, if I catch myself not understanding what I'm reading or not recalling it, I have to stop and go back.
Yeah. I've done that before, like finishing up the Book of the Five Rings. I was riding the bike, reading something, and my brain just totally went off on a tangent, and I go, I don't even remember. And I was at the end of the book. Yeah. And that's the chapter of know nothingness. So if you break it down, that's what Miyamoto was talking about. So I just read that again, and I was like, okay, I'm going to. And I literally was like maybe a page away from the end and went back, and I completely started it back over. Yeah. Because it was like, I don't even remember reading this. And this is the key, the fifth ring that puts the four, no different than the four agreements.
Yeah.
The fifth.
Got to read it.
I'm sure we'll put the four together in a sense.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. That's right now. But, before I would have, I say before I was on the medications that I was on for a couple of years, it was, it was just hard to hang on. It was hard to retain. And then once I did read it, I'd be like, wow, that was really great. Like a week later, I may not be able to tell you much about it. Like my memory was really, really rough and sketchy. And, getting some clarity now without that stuff has really allowed me to, I don't know, just to understand how off I was. Like you don't really know how drunk you are until you see a video of yourself being drunk.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you just don't know. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, holy shit, I don't want to do that again. Well, when you're dealing with some form of mental illness or stress that can build and become so stressful that it shows up in the form of mental illness or breakdown or whatever it is, it's real. Everybody has a form of it. Everybody has something that just they can't let go of. Everybody has something that controls their attention more than it should. Everybody ruminates about things. People assume things. It all leads to where you see the guy or the girl in the jacket in the padded room. If you don't want to end up in that place, either physically or metaphorically, start using some tools that are readily available.
Yeah.
Take time for yourself. Take time for yourself, people.
You have to.
And don't get in this trap like where I found myself, where it was constantly just like, why are you doing that? Well, because so-and-so needs it, or because I want to make someone happy, or the only reason I'm doing this whole thing, this whole trip or this business or this is to make other people happy. Stop it. Stop it. Give yourself a day. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a fucking hour. Walk away from the conversation. Just breathe and relax, because until you do that, you're really just perpetuating your own hell on earth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I truly believe that we are all perpetuating our own either heaven or hell on earth. You never get fully to either. You'll always have bits of both. But if you really understand that I'm not trying to make the best me so I get into some magic fucking gate somewhere one day. I'm trying to make the best me so the people around me have a better experience and I have a better experience while we're here.
That's a good way of putting it, because I'm not being mean. I'll play devil's advocate. There may be no gate to open up for you when this is all over.
Yeah. What if that was
another topic of discussion?
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally. What if you get to that light?
There's a bigger impact to do, and I'm again guilty of this. That I think it's more important to be more impactful to those around you, to leave a lasting impression for generations to come than what's to await in the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a long time, I'll admit it right here. I'm probably going to come back and I'll have a nice long speech or something written about this. But when I started Barrel Brands, our small company, I needed to figure out that I could do something of value or worth that wasn't under somebody else's thumb. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're a great salesman. Okay. Right. Or like, oh, you're a great home builder. Okay. Well, go do it for yourself. So I had to do that. I had to really find something. And I think what it was that I was searching for was just acceptance from somebody, some people. I wanted somebody to like me. And then when I realized that people liked what I was making, they liked what I was doing, they liked what I was saying, it fueled this fire of like, ooh, this is making me happy. But it still wasn't me making me happy. Until I realized it was. All the things that I was doing, that I was saying I was doing for all these other people, it was really, for me, it wasn't in a headspace that was healthy. Mm-hmm. But just like when you say, well, I work 80 hours a week for my family. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. If you worked 80 hours a week for your family, you wouldn't see your family.
No, because there's 80 hours and you take into like drive consideration for most people.
Yeah.
Then you're talking, there's 100 plus hours.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. That cycle will never end.
It will not end until you end it. Mm-hmm. Just like if your grandpa told your dad he was a piece of shit, your dad told you you're a piece of shit, unless you fucking have some gumption about you, you're going to tell your kid they're a piece of shit.
Because you're
in some way.
You're gonna think that's how it's
in some way. Not on purpose. You don't get up in the morning, you're like, I'm going to go abuse my kid.
I hope not.
No, but in a way we are. In a way, by setting expectations that people can't live up to, by changing expectations, by doing all these things, we are manipulating, we are abusing in a manner. But it's only because we've done it to ourselves. It's only because it was done to us.
And
it's all we know.
For another time, that's what we were talking about before we hopped on a podcast I listened to about, childhood traumas. And we've all experienced it. And this is what I've talked about before, that Wim talks about, that 11 generations of trauma are within you, within your DNA.
Sure.
So one will now drop and be to my child, I'm a quote unquote adding the 11th.
Yeah.
And then when she has children, one will drop from that far end generation and she will add the new 11th.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, some of the things they talk about. They both have wrote books, these ladies, but it's those types of things we don't realize, is that things that happened in our childhood, our parents and so forth, all have resonated and are all within us and ingrained at some point.
Yeah.
You just don't know it. And they come about in different things. And sometimes they come about in things that we don't know and we don't understand. And that's no different than like when we had Nate here talking about getting into deep things with people, doing their
pranic healing.
Yeah. And doing reaching, all that kind of stuff. Like you find those things with individuals, because it's no different than if something happened to you when you were 2, we usually don't, it's scientists have stated that we really don't pull things back to like 4 or 5. And that's pushing it for some. Well, if it happened then, it's buried deep in the subconscious, but something happens now, it triggers that subconscious and you don't know it. Well,
yeah, your cortisol levels go through the roof. And when you're in the womb, the mother's cortisol levels affect you. Her cortisol levels are your cortisol levels. Cortisol, stress.
Yeah,
right?
So like if a mother was in fight or flight the entire time, or children who've been under, drugs.
Yeah.
Whole nother shape of thing. Yeah, like in who's,
Yeah, my mom experienced horrific trauma while I was in the womb.
I was going to say, like, think of a woman if she was in like a combat scenario, like every day, like, certain women who probably over in other countries might experience.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some horrific shit that happens to people.
But this is like a whole nother
we could go on forever.
Podcast we can do, but it's those things that draw up. And going back to like we talked about, and Jeremy said, the tools in the tool belt, to have, this is coming. Let me pull this tool out and get myself back so I don't become a raging inferno.
Yeah. If you're gonna go work on a 67 Chevelle and you haven't worked on one since 1967, you may want to pick up a Hilton or a Chilton's manual or a Haynes guide or a service book and refamiliarize yourself a bit. It's no different.
Yeah.
It's no different.
It's one of those things to draw back on, that you might have to, from time to time, pull it back out to, like you're saying, glance over. Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah.
And then you just roll with it.
Yeah, man.
Because it comes back to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Don't sleep on this stuff. I mean, it's really easy for us as humans to be like, man, I want to get into reading. I want to meditate. I want to do this. Well, it's 6 o'clock. My favorite show's on. It's 8 o'clock. I got to get in the shower. It's 9 o'clock. I got to get in bed. It's 10 o'clock. I'm asleep. Oh, it's 5. I got to do it all over again. Got to change. You got to do something, man. If you want real change, if you want to feel, and I'm not on a mountain here, I'm not on a pulpit, but if you want to feel the way I feel right now in regards to the changes that I've been able to make and the trauma I've been able to overcome, you have to do it.
Yeah.
There's no other. You have to drive through that ambush that you've set up for yourself. You got to plow through that motherfucker.
The work has to be put in.
The work has to be fucking put in. I have loved ones that are around me that I watch go through these cycles of suffering, and then something garners their attention and makes them happy for a split second, and then they're back to reality and they're suffering. And it's just this never-ending cycle of finding something to distract me because I'm not happy with myself or my environment. You have to stop. You have to fucking stop. And if a friend ever comes to you and says anything like this, like, listen, you need to slow down, do not brush them off. Do not take it fucking lightly. They love you. They see that you're acting in a manner that is probably detrimental to the direction that you want to go in, and they're simply trying to help. But all too often, when somebody that we love tells us something that we don't like about ourselves, we lash out. So remember, don't take it personally, right?
Yep.
Go back to the 4 agreements. Do your best. You're not going to be the one that changes this person. You show them a way, and maybe they do it, maybe they don't. But you can't set an expectation and assume these things. All you can do is try. And that's all that I did on my last trip to Austin was tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And now I'm home, and I look back, and I can reflect, and with 100% sincerity, I can tell myself I did my fucking best. I did my best. Mm-hmm. Not everybody realized that I was doing my best.
Yeah, and at times no one won't.
No.
It's usually more of a thing of like, wow, I did really good. And that's a sign of you're making those changes and you are growing.
Yeah, man.
And then I think when it comes full circle and somebody else notices those things, then it's like, okay, you really know that you're making those changes.
Yeah, yeah. And when you start, I don't know. I'm no professional about any of this. I have no degree. I'm just rambling about our happenings that we happen to be stumbling upon every day. But when you ride a ride 100 times a day, you get really good at that ride. And you know what the turns are going to be, and you can expect them. And you can tell your partner that's sitting next to you, oh, this is what's going to happen next. Well, what happens when somebody changes that fucking ride?
Yeah.
And you're not pliable. You're not flexible. Now all of a sudden you panic. Now all of a sudden your partner, whoever was counting on you to be their backbone, you can't do that because you weren't ready for these turns. Flexibility, it all goes back down to those agreements with yourself, I think, of just being honest. Don't bullshit yourself. Fucking use the tools.
Absolutely.
Word.
I think that's where we should leave it. Exactly.
I think it is. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you guys. We really, really appreciate your ears.
Always.
And your eyes. And gosh damn it, it feels good to be back.
Yes.
And we'll start getting some more of these out a little quicker for you guys. Yeah, man, just have a good one. Whoever you're around, make their days better, and it'll make yours better, I promise you.
Ooh, that's a very beautiful way to put it.
Right on, brother. Jeff, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Love you guys. See you.
Enjoy.
Peace.